good, YouTube? YouTube, what is good? Facebook, YouTube, however you tuning into the show right now. Last Word Productions. I'm your host, Tavares Wilson, and as you always know, I always get the last word. So, had a lot going on this past weekend in Dolphin World, man. As we all know, the draft did commence and it ended, I believe, Saturday. Today is now Sunday, so it was yesterday, excuse me. Long story short, we got a lot to talk about, man. We're gonna talk about some of our draft grades. I'm gonna go through each round who I thought was a hit player, who I thought was a miss. We're gonna go through some of the experts and they draft analysis. Was some of these guys who be on these apps like the Score, ESPN, stuff like that. We're gonna see what some of these dudes had to say about the Dolphins draft. So, wait no further. Let's get straight into it. Now, before we actually get straight diving into it, this will be a solo show. So it'll just be me. So I'll probably be up here for maybe 30, 40 minutes. We're just going to break down what we thought of the draft. We're going to read some reviews, some grades, some of these experts and other people had of the Dolphins draft. And we're going to get straight into it. So before we say anything, let's go through the draft picks round by round before we give an overall grade. I'm gonna grade the draft based on each round first. Like I'm gonna get a first round draft grade, second round, third, et cetera, individual grades, and then we're gonna grade it collectively as a whole. So let's get straight into it. So first round, the 21st pick, the Dolphins selected DN Chop Robinson out of Penn State. For those who do not know who Chop Robinson is, Chop Robinson was one of the more boom or bust kind of looked at prospects and players of this draft. A guy who is a freak of nature, absolutely talented, comes off the edge like a man possessed, has a quick first step, just a natural gifted athlete, so much so to the point he's garnered comparisons from the likes of Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons. Those are some lofty comparisons. You don't get compared to those two freaks of nature just by being an average talent. But that does not mean he is the player they are as prospects when it was coming out. Both of those guys, in my personal opinion, were more polished prospects and players coming out. Chart Robinson is a guy who I believe is more keyed in on and banking on his athleticism than he is actually being technically sound and playing with good hand placement, having one or two moves that he could use throughout a game to beat a guy, or even just having a multitude of ways to get around the tackle to get to the quarterback. And another thing I don't think he does as well as Myles Garrett in this case, I don't think he sets the edge well, anywhere near close as well as Myles Garrett said. And now that's one of Michael Parsons' problems as well. But the thing is, Michael Parsons has now made a living in the league getting to the quarterback. We don't know if Chart Robinson can do that quite yet. We think he has the potential to do it, of course. It's the 21st pick. But we have to see. Now, with all that being said, what do I give the grade? What grade do I give the pick? Me personally speaking, I have to factor in a lot of things. One of the things I have to factor in is the good about the pick and the bad about the picks. The good about the pick is you got an extremely talented young player. He's going to come in. He's going to get significant snaps quickly because we got two starters who are going to be out I don't care what Jalen Phillips says. I know he says he wants to play. He's going to try to be ready for it. I don't care what he's talking about. As far as I'm concerned, you got 4 weeks without Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips. At the very least, in my opinion, you got 4 weeks without him begin next season. That means you're going to have to go a month with Shaq Barrett and Chart Robinson. That means he's going to get a lot of snaps and he's going to get them quickly. So, in my opinion, drafting a young guy with all that talent and helping him mold into a better player and actually becoming something is going to be a plus for him. Because after let's say you get out of the Bradley Chubb contract, which I do believe they're going to do, you feel me? You now have a tandem, hopefully, between Chart Robinson and Jalen Phillips for the next 5 years minimum, because both of them are still youngest, and both of them are rookies. So the hope is Chart Robinson is going to pan out and start to figure things out before those guys come back. And on top of that, you needed another edge rusher. I mean, you had nothing. Like I already said, Chubb, Phillips out, AVG gone. Who else you had? Melvin Gordon, Melvin Ingram. Excuse me. I mean, what are we talking about? You and then you went out and got guys like Bruce Irvin and some of these other dudes that are 33-plus-year-old players. It's not going to work. You need someone to build a foundation around at one of the more premium positions in the league now. Getting to the passer is a must in this league. You have to be able to rush the passer. So this was a premium pick, but I also look at it from the perspective of you had linemen out there who I projected them to take, who I wanted them to take, like a JPJ. You feel me? But it is what it is. If you follow this team long enough, Chris Greer doesn't draft lineman, guard, center in the first round. Just not his style. He's never done it. So it was wishful thinking on my end, truth be told. But I'm here to give my opinion. I'm not here to talk about just what I think will happen. I'm here to talk about what I believe should happen and what the betterment of this team direction can go in my opinion. But with that being said, I'm not shocked at all that they did not take a guard or a center. I'm not shocked by that in the slightest. I enjoyed and love the fact they took a guy with a high ceiling, boom or bust kind of potential, because at the end of the day, if he works out, you got to tend him for years to come. If he doesn't, and he's not the guy you thought you was going to get, I don't think you have a Deion Jones situation either, because I think Chubb and Phillips both can still probably play at a pretty decent rate for the next 2 to 3 years. Then you can find another guy. That's me considering both do come back healthy and can get back to form. That's me considering that. Now, if that's not the case, then we'll see. But I'm going off of that whim. So with all that being said, I know I went on a little, spill. With all that being said, I'm gonna get this grade a B plus. The reason why I'm not gonna give it an A minus, anything of that nature. Again, I feel as if there's a lot Chuck Robinson has to clean up in his fundamental game. I think his technique needs to be better. I think he needs to put at least 1 or 2 more moves in his arsenal in terms of getting after the passer. Because in college, if you watch his tape, he just was pretty much just better than the guys that would line up in front of him all the time. Like when he got to the quarterback, he was running past a guy, was able to hit a guy with a rip move, get past him straight to the quarterback. Or just outright just out-muscle a guy. I mean, that's fine at Danny in college and it's going to look good on the tape. But when you get to the next level, when you get to the NFL, now that you're here, everyone is just as strong. Everyone's just as quick. Everyone has a good first step. What are you going to do to separate yourself? It has to be things added to your arsenal, in order for you to be better. So I want to see him take that next step, and I want to see him set the edge better. He has to do a better job at setting the edge if he's going to be a 3-down guy. He cannot. You can make a living in this league. You can make a living in this league being a pass rusher. Don't get me wrong. But you can't be a 3-down guy not being able to set the edge. You can't do that. The only guy we see in the league that's doing that at the pace he's doing that right now is Micah Parsons, but you've seen reports of the Cowboys even growing frustrated with him, despite the fact that he's that damn talented. All I'm saying is he has to get better at those things. And if he doesn't, it's going to hurt him in the long run because this is a guy who has the talent and ability to do so. He just has to be able to put it together. So I get at a B plus, somewhere in that ballpark. Now, our next draft pick came in second round. Patrick Paul, we took him with the 55th pick in the draft. Offensive tackle out of Houston. To me, this draft pick is a C minus. I'm not high on Patrick Paul. I feel as if you could have went different directions, different players, even at the same position. I mean, but that's neither here nor there. At the end of the day, it's not even the fact that you could have went different players. I'm just not that big on Patrick Paul. I know a lot of people are in between what he is. Some people say he graded off as a first-round capable talent. Other people graded him off like he could be a day 3 pick. It's things like that. Me personally, I'm somewhere in the middle. I think he's good enough to not be good enough right now. And what I mean by that is he's a caliber depth piece. He can be a quality backup right now, but I don't believe if you asked him tomorrow to be your starting left tackle for the next 2 years, I don't think he's ready for that. I think this is an Austin Jackson kind of situation where it's going to take some time for the guy to develop. Hopefully, a little quicker than what Austin Jackson developed, but it's going to take some time for this guy to develop and for him to put it together because he's a specimen. I believe he's what 6'7", 320, 325 or something along those lines. This is a big guy. This is a big dude. Like he has the tools for what you want in the left tackle, but hand placement needs to be better. Technique needs to be better. I think he needs to be a little bit quicker out of his get up. He's a little too slow and lackadaisical when it comes to getting out of his stands and getting his hands on dudes. Like he has a huge wingspan. I expect his wingspan to be more helpful in contributing to get his hands early and often on defenders. He doesn't do that nearly high enough for me. But he has the makeup for what you want in a guy as a offensive tackle and left tackle. Because this was a 2025 pick. I believe that wholeheartedly. I think this is Teron Armstead's last season with the club. He's run his course. It will be 3 years, and the 2 years he's been here, he's been injured quite literally every other week. It has not been good. I think it's time to move on, and I think this is a move showing that they're ready to move on. But he has to be coached up. So again, I get this a CC minus. I'm not that high on Patrick Paul. Hopefully he can prove me wrong in the near future. Next pick, Jalen Wright, running back out of Tennessee, 4th round pick. We did not have a 3rd round pick. We had to forfeit it due to the scandal that happened in 2022 between Brian Flores and owner Stephen Ross. The whole, excuse me, the whole tanking situation. But that's another story for another day. 4th round pick, Jalen Wright, running back out of Tennessee, fast, electric guy. Problem is, you already got that on the roster. That's the problem. I mean, you need a bruising back. You don't have that. Raheem Mostert, not a bruiser. I know he's a bigger guy, but he's not a bruiser. We've seen for the last 2 years since he's been here, he can't take hits. He's not built for the long haul of a season. Now you add another smaller, quicker guy to go along with another smaller, quicker guy, which to Devon Chain's credit, he's beefed up a little bit this offseason. At the end of the day, his strength is being a small, shifty, quick guy. That's what he is. So I'm not in love with this pick. It's not a terrible pick in terms of like the player's bad, but I think it's a terrible pick because in the 4th round, you didn't need to add a running back. You didn't need to add a running back. This was a luxury pick, in my opinion. So my personal opinion, I think this pick is a C minus and borderline D. But I'm gonna give it a C minus because I think Jalen Wright is a good player. I do. Now, after that, 5th round, at pick 158, you drafted Muhammad Kamara out of Colorado State, defensive end. And now, I'll be honest with you guys, I've seen some tape on him since we drafted him, but I haven't watched nearly enough to tell you what I think about him as a whole. But what I did notice was this. He plays with good hand placement. He has a natural bend around the corner. Only problem I have with this pick for where you got him is I think he's a bit slow for what DNs are these days. He may have ran well. I haven't seen his scouting report and stuff like that, but he plays a little slow for me. And for a 5th pick, I think he'll be a good solid depth piece. 5th round pick, I think that's fine. But I'm just telling you what I think of the player. So in terms of the value, where you got him and what he could be for you, I give this a C. I give it a C. I think he could get a little better, but I'm just not sure if he could fix the speed issue coming off the edge. I think he could be a little faster. It'll be good if he was a little faster, I should say. 6th round, Malik Washington out of Virginia. Now, this is a pick that I actually somewhat liked. I think Malik Washington had a strong showing. Excuse me. He had a strong showing his last season in Virginia. Excuse me, I said Washington. He had a strong showing his last season in Virginia. I believe he caught 8 touchdowns, a little over 700, 800 yards or something along those lines. And this is a guy who can probably develop into a third consistent receiver for you over the next year or two. And I don't have a problem with that. I mean, we've seen receivers get found in the 5th or 6th round the past couple of years now. I mean, look at Puka Nacua just last year. Look at Tank Dell just last year. Guys are being found later in later rounds, and they're working. So I have no problem with them taking this player and this pick in the position they took it. A guy who has shown you he has capability. So in my opinion, I'm gonna give this a B plus. I think this is a damn good pick. Next player we drafted in the 6th round, safety Patrick Morris out of California. Again, this is another player I have not watched enough film on, guys. I will go back to it and let you all know what I think of. But based off what I've read and heard from people, this is a guy he's pretty much a depth piece. He's going to be probably contributing more so to special teams than the actual defensive side of the ball. So I'm gonna leave this an incomplete grade for now. But based on what I heard, it probably would be a C. But I'll leave it here for now. And the 7th round pick, 241, Taj Washington, USC receiver. Another player I haven't really watched too much of. Again, the draft just happened, guys. I got to keep that in mind. I'm going to go watch these guys in full. I promise you, man. Every year I watch these guys through a course of a week or so, and then I get to it, and then I tell you all fully who I believe is going to do what and what they could do on this team, etc. But based on what I've read and what I've seen and what I know as of now where it stands with these players, the overall draft grade I'm going to give to the Dolphins is a C. I mean, you drafted Chuck Robinson, who I really think will pan out, and I think he will be a good player one day, damn good player one day. But as it stands right now, he has a lot to work on. He's not fully polished whatsoever. I don't even think he's as refined as a prospect as Jalen Phillips was coming out of college. And Jalen Phillips had his fair share of rookie struggles. So we're going to see if it can work out. But outside of Chuck Robinson, every other pick, in my opinion, was somewhat reaches outside of Malik Washington. Reaches in terms of they seem to start drafting for like depth and luxury instead of like need. And that's not a problem per se, but the thing is, out of all of these draft picks, you had 7 picks. You took 2 defensive players and both were DNs. I'm not fully sure that's the way you should have approached this draft. I thought that you could have took a lot of linebackers later in these rounds. I like that they took a safety. Maybe it would have been a little bit better in some of these earlier rounds because some of these DBs did fall, but it is what it is. I would have loved to see a linebacker or a safety. I would have loved to see some kind of nose tackle go off the board. I mean, you got a lot of guys that are on 1-year deal, vet minimum deals. Half of those guys aren't making the league. They signed not the league, but team. Half of these guys signed 6, 7. You signed about 6, 7 of them to 1-year vet minimum contracts. I'm not sold that that's what you're gonna roll out there with week 1. I mean, at least I would hope that isn't. And another thing I see a lot of people online were upset about, and it was Tua trainer specifically. I forgot what he said exactly, but he spoke about how he feels as if Chuck Robinson will be a great player, but he just can't understand why it's so difficult to build, a good offensive line for your franchise guy. Listen, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna let it go. First and foremost, we have to understand something. The Dolphins have been in contact with former professional, starters and like Rise and other things of that nature in the trade and free agent process. They're looking to still add some kind of depth at the very least to the guard center position. They are. They've been in contact with a lot of these free agent guards because they've probably noticed by now Chris Greer does not have an eye for drafting these guys. He just doesn't. I mean, yeah, you wouldn't have got Rob Hunt, but where has it taken you? What has it gotten you? And plus, he's gone now. You still drafted Lee Ockerberg, who's terrible. You drafted Solomon Kinley, who was an afterthought after 2 years. You who else you drafted? I mean, who else are we talking about? Like, this has not been fruitful as a process. I mean, you talk about, I believe his name is Asiata, the guy who's a police officer now. I mean, it's a lot of guys that has come in this club that has been drafted at the guard or center positions that just not has worked out. So I'm thinking and starting to realize that maybe our guy, his bread and butter isn't drafted inside lineman. Maybe we need to just sign some proven talent off the streets. And I think that's the way they're going to approach it. At least I hope so, because I do believe they still need help at guard. I'm not sold on just having Isaiah Wynn and whoever the hell else out there, whether it's Liam Mockenberg or Rob Jones. They need to go add another guy, in my personal opinion. I think that has to be top priority come June 1st when you get 18 million. Now, with that being said, I know a lot of people, I know some people personally are talking like, well, who the hell is Tua training to say these things, this, that, and the third? Like, these guys, they get paid to do certain things, not to evaluate draft prospects, whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, it's his opinion. We all have opinions. My thing is, and what I will say in regards to that, is that I believe at the end of the day, whether you like Tua or not, he's going to get paid. He's going to get his money. I just don't see the Dolphins moving off of him, especially being the fact that Chris Greer's future and Mike McDaniel's future, in my opinion, are banking on Tua working. So I just think they're going to have to try to make him work. It is what it is. They're going to have to try to make him work. Now, with that being said, will it work? I'm not too sure about that. But at the end of the day, I think there's a possibility that it could. Now, with that being said, I just overall, man, I give this grade. I give this draft a B. But let's get into some of what the experts say, man. So first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna go to an app I use called The Score. We're gonna read what grade they gave the Dolphins in their breakdown of it. So The Score gave them a C as well. And it said your evaluation of the Dolphins draft probably depends on what you're looking for in a prospect. Robinson and Paul have a ton of potential, but there will be likely some development required for them to become impact players in the NFL. Wright is an electric playmaker, but how does he fit into a backfield that already includes Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert? On the whole, the upside of players selected is extremely interesting, but it's fair to wonder whether this class helps Miami's chances of capitalizing on this opportunity to compete. Now, I think that's completely fair. I'm not gonna sit here and be a homer and tell you all like, oh, they don't understand, they don't see what we see, they just hate. But I'm not gonna be that fan. I think that's a completely fair analysis and a completely fair breakdown. So let's go off into another. Let's go off into another. This article, this website got a whole lot of people grades. All right, so let's just read off some of these. So we got ESPN Mel Kiper Jr. We all know who that is. So let's read. He said, I like a bunch of these players, but it's a small class, and giving up the 2025 third round of means and can't make it to B+. He gave it a B. NFL.com Chad Rota, I believe that's how he said his name. Excuse me if I butchered it. Miami needed another edge rusher, especially with Jalen Phillips coming off an injury, Achilles. Bradley Chubb coming off a torn ACL, but Robinson must show he can be a factor in the run game and convert pressures into sacks more regularly in the NFL. See, he talked about him having issues setting the edge as well. It's something I talked about. Left tackle Teron Sterrett, difficulty staying on the field made Paul a good pick in the second round. The team's Forfeiture of its third-round pick dragged down its grade. Trading a future third-round pick for a fourth in the current draft is usually not wise. And Miami has a few setbacks in the stable already. But finding a potential star and waiting around made it easier to swallow. That's another pick I said a lot. It will not be surprised if the relentless Kamara is as productive, as Robinson early in his career. Both pass catchers with the surname Washington not related were forced as tough-minded slot receivers in Mike McDaniel's offense. He gave the grade a B minus. Let's go into some other stuff. Bleacher Report. GM Chris Greer added some fine players who should boast of all three phases. However, he may have prioritized value over need too much, and the Dolphins still have question marks along the offensive interior and their secondary. Again, fair. They gave it a C+. Sports Illustrated Matt Verdemer, however you say it, excuse me, man. The Dolphins were predictable but effective. They built along the offense and the defensive lines with their first two picks, grabbing Robinson and then Paul, who should eventually replace Tom Armstead when he retires. For Miami, Robinson's early maturity. What? Why they spell it like that? Maturation. They spelled it wrong in the article. Will be key with Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb working back from injuries. C+. And we're going to read this last one from the Sporting News, Vinny Ayer. This seems like the biggest forced hand of a draft class, as the Dolphins had to be dedicated to depth with some injury edge concerns up front. Hence, Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips. Paul was thinking beyond Teron Armstead, while they hope Washington can give them a key number 3. Wright is a fine talent, but for them, see, they put but for together, but I know they meant but for. Whoever tied this up, they got to do a little better job. But for them, he's just a Mike McDaniel luxury pick to a position of strength. C. Same thing I said, luxury pick. So the consensus is B minus, B, C. So it was a solid draft, to say the least. No one is up in arms about the draft. No one is over the moon about it. It doesn't seem like to me, at least. I haven't seen, even when I scroll through the other articles, not articles, but statements, I don't see an A. So I don't think anyone is giving this draft an A because, again, it was just solid. It's what it is. But I don't think that means it's a bad draft. I just think it's solid. And we're going to see if these players can become something more. Hopefully they can, because at the end of the day, I think 2 of these guys, at the very least, maybe 3 of them, are going to be asked within the next year or 2 to be pivotal pieces for this team. Pivotal. That's just my opinion, though. So we at the 30-minute mark, man. I'm about to get out of here. Give y'all my final thoughts, man. I think the Dolphins, again, I thought they drafted pretty solidly. I don't think they did anything that was over the moon and will make you feel as if this team is just that much up in arms and better than everyone else in the division. Because I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I think the Bills and the Jets had better drafts than us, and I think the Patriots had a damn good draft. So that's just me. But with that being said, I still think we have a chance to be the most competitive team in our division, and I still think we have a chance to be the best team in our division. It's just up to them to put it all together, not just on paper, but on the fields. And that starts with the quarterback, that starts with the coach, that starts with everyone. So it has to come a point where that's what happens. With that being said, I appreciate y'all for tuning into the show once again, man. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel on YouTube, Blastword Productions. We're streaming there right here, right now. Be sure to go check that out. I'm on Facebook as well. We stream it there right here, right now. Last Word Productions on Facebook, Last Word Productions on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, or also known as X now. I'm everywhere, man. Appreciate y'all for always tuning into the show. Y'all stay blessed, be safe, and I'm out. Peace.